Thanks, Christy. It's great to have you all here tonight. I have been a board member now of the Rancho Santa Fe Foundation for about 5 years, and the chair just this last year. And real brief, my wife and I have been philanthropic throughout our lives, but I've really, it's been a great experience to be part of the foundation because I think it's really broadened my horizons and opened me up to some things that I wouldn't otherwise be exposed to. And so I hope you get a sense of that same thing that we have, is that it's a resource for you as you think about philanthropy. And in particular, with these three gentlemen here tonight, we're going to be talking about international philanthropy. And I hope you'll take every opportunity to hear what they have to say and then ask any questions that you have. Let me just lay out how the evening's going to go. I'm going to give the briefest of introductions of these three. I've had the chance to look at their resumes, and I'm going to say maybe one or two things about them that they probably wouldn't say about themselves that I found quite interesting. And then I'm going to ask them, we've asked them for their 3-minute elevator speech about themselves and about their organization so that you have a little bit of context for what they do and who they are. And then we're going to proceed with an informal conversation. By informal, I mean if you need to get up and get another glass of wine or some food, feel free to do so. I'm going to lead with a question. We'll ask our panelists to respond to it. And then if you have a question regarding what we're talking about, please feel free to ask it. I suspect it's likely you'll anticipate another question that we have already on the docket, but don't let that deter you. And hope to spend the next hour or so just finding out more about what it means to be giving internationally. Okay, let me start over on my far left. David Risher is WorldReader's chief executive and co-founder. David has had careers with both Microsoft and Amazon. He led the retail division, and I noted it said that he was able to lead Amazon to becoming profitable. And so I'm sure I speak on behalf of all shareholders of Amazon who thank him for the accomplishment, because we were wondering when it was going to happen. But obviously it's a terrific company. David's background is phenomenal. Many of us know WorldReader. David also happens to speak 4 languages and is an avid cyclist, and he and his wife Jennifer reside in the Bay Area. So it's great to have David here. Thank you. Next to David is John Rowe. And John is a local resident. He and his wife Regina live just a couple miles away in Rancho Santa Fe. John is a well-known photographer, award-winning filmmaker. He travels all over the world, particularly in Africa. I've noticed that, let me find my notes here. Some of John's work, 20 images from Africa and Antarctica, were featured in the 125th anniversary of the National Geographic Photography and the Power of Photography exhibition up in LA. John has recently been traveling to Cuba. John, it says, has photographed the Rolling Stones Havana Moon concert this past March. I don't know if that was on stage, backstage, both stages, but it sounds fascinating. It says he continues to travel to Cuba. And John will be telling you more about how his photography got him involved in Only Child. And then last but not least, we have Neil Otto to my immediate left. Neil lives in Rancho Bernardo with his wife Margaret. He's a private investor and philanthropist. And I guess we'd say you're an engineer by training?
Yeah.
Engineer or scientist. He's had quite a career in automotive-related fields, alternative energy. NASA used Neil's services after the Challenger disaster to figure out how to make the space shuttle project safer. And it also says that Neil has issued 3 U.S. patents and several scientific publications, and he has 1 approved patent under secrecy order. So I don't know if that's something we could discuss. Both David and Neil also have taught. David at the University of Washington was the professor of the year, and you've been at Grinnell and UC Davis. So I just find these guys fascinating. And now what I want to do is, let's start with Neil, and I'm just going to ask them to talk for 2 or 3 minutes about them and about their organization.
So, yes, I'm Neil. I'm on the board at PCI. We're Project Concern International. We're a homegrown, San Diego-based international development charity. Our founder is Dr. Jim Turpin. He founded PCI one night in 1961 when he was called to save the lives of 2 children in Tijuana who were dying of pneumonia. And now 55 years later, PCI is still saving lives around the world. We're about a $60 million a year organization. We work in 15 different countries in Central America, Asia, and Africa. And last year alone, we touched the lives of 19 million people with our interventions and help. Our mission is to empower people, families, and communities to enhance their health, end hunger, and overcome hardship. And we do this by helping these families and communities identify and overcome their unique problems that they tell us that they have, not that we tell them that they have, which has been a failing of international development in the past. Now these problems are different in every country, and oftentimes quite different in the same country, going from one region to another. So PCI has developed a very broad spectrum of expertise. We've had to. And this expertise includes developing community health systems, improving rural and urban businesses and livelihoods, engineering water and sanitation systems, providing microloans, screening for cancer, improving child nutrition, and implementing disaster risk reduction in neighborhoods and countryside. And we focus on several strategic threads in doing this. We try to always be innovative. We are constantly concerned about program quality, being able to deliver our programs better, cheaper, easier. And we always put sustainability as our #1 goal. Again, a failing of international philanthropy in the past has been that you go, you drill a well, 3 years later, the well breaks, no one fixes it, there's no well. So, and wrapped around all of that, we measure everything in as much detail as we possibly can, and then feed that back in to the loop, right? And try and do better quality, try and be more innovative, try and make it all more sustainable. But at the core of much of what we do is, #1, the social and economic empowerment of women. The 50% of the population that many developing countries are not utilizing to the greatest extent, and their economies suffer because of that. And also, at the very base is helping build local capacity. That is what we do best. We connect with the local community, we find out what their problems are, and we help them become better at solving their own problems. Oftentimes that requires a leg up in funding. You know, they need equipment, they need training, they need sometimes food, right? Things like that. But the end result in all of our programs is that we're trying to create a better community where we've worked. And I have to say, I've worked with several international groups, and I really do believe that PCI is probably the best group that I've seen in making this a true partnership at the ground level.
Thank you, Neil.
You're welcome.
John, you want to go next?
Yes. So my story takes place in Africa, in southwest Ethiopia. I had, for the last 15 years, I've traveled a lot in Central Africa, Southern Africa, and also East Africa. And about 10 years ago, I ended up in the Omo Valley, which is in southwest Ethiopia. It's tribal Africa. It's a place that National Geographic calls the last frontier in Africa. And I was fascinated by the cultures and the fact that these people had been pretty much isolated from the rest of the world forever. They'd had some contact during World War II when they'd see a few British or a few Italian soldiers come through, but really for all intents and purposes, they had nothing from the modern world, no clean water, no medical care of any kind, no immunizations for the children. And I spent 5 years, over 5 years, going there and really concentrating on photographing and getting to know these cultures and people. And I was planning to do a book on these tribes, these last tribes of Africa. And I thought I had just about completed my work when my guide, my translator, a fellow named Lali Labuko, came to me one day, and he was from one of these villages. He was a young boy whose parents still lived in a hut with a dirt floor and an open fire in the hut. And Lali had been educated by missionaries, and he had become a teacher, and he was trying to educate the kids in the tribe. And he came to me one day and he said, "John, can you help me?" I said, "Lali, what do you need?" And he said, "Well, there's something that's happened in our tribe that you don't know about. It's been going on for many generations, and that is that we believe our tribe believes that certain children are either born cursed or they become cursed. And they've been killing children, a lot of children. And I need your help because at night I've been sneaking off and saving kids, and I've got 18 children that my wife and I have brought home. And we don't have enough money to feed them. We don't have enough money to buy diapers. Can you help?" This was 6 years ago. I've never been involved in nonprofits. I don't know the statistics that Neil knows and so forth. But I did know Lali, and I knew that even though I photographed, following the genocide in Rwanda, I'd seen some things in Eastern Congo that weren't pleasant. I'd seen a lot in Africa, but nothing quite like this. Nothing where there was an immediate need today to save children's lives, where you could, in fact, for a very little effort or little amount of money, save a life, And when Lali asked me that, of course I said, yes, I'll be happy to help any way I can. So we started a nonprofit called Omo Child, and we've been in existence for about 5.5 or 6 years. One of the first meetings I had was with Christy Wilson, and told her about it. We went on, we made a film about this, and last year that film, this documentary called Omo Child, The River and the Bush, won 25 awards. We were in festivals all over the world. And we now have 46 kids, but there's about 50,000 people in the Omo Valley who still believe certain children are cursed and that they should be killed. And Lali works every day to try and stop that from happening and to take care of the 46 kids that he's rescued. So that's what we do. Thank you.
David?
Thank you, Mark. And thank you, Rancho Santa Fe. We sort of feel like honorary members here. We get a chance to come here every 6 months or so. So I'm David Risher, the CEO and co-founder of WorldReader. WorldReader believes in reading. Very simple. We believe that reading matters. It matters for reasons of health. A child born to a mother who is literate has a 50% greater chance of living past age 5 than a child born to an illiterate mother. We believe it matters for reasons of safety. There are organizations, there's actually an organization that builds prisons in the United States, and the way they determine how large the prison is they look at the literacy rate in their community. The lower the literacy rate, the larger the prison. And we believe it matters for a reason of prosperity and personal advocacy and agency. You can't be, you are meant to be, if you're not educated, if you cannot read. You will not have a good future. You will not have the future you deserve. One of the things we say is that reading is our best vaccine against ignorance and obsolescence. So we believe in reading. So what do? We use low-cost technology, Kindles, which started at $500, $400, then went to $249, then $179, then $129, then $79. Now they're about $50. Or cell phones. There are now more cell phones on the planet than there are toilets. You probably know.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Staggering thought. What do you think? There might be one toilet a house. So we use low-cost technology which keeps getting less and less expensive and more powerful. We load it up with digital books because our view is the only way to get to scale, to get to large numbers and really have a global impact is digitally. We partner with local organizations, local publishers, and other local organizations to get local content, very important. We have a very large collection we've digitized over the years of local books. And we put them in the hands of kids, of parents, caregivers, through schools, through libraries, and other mechanisms. I'll come back to that in a second. How did we get started? Well, about 6 years ago, my wife and family and I were traveling, actually 7 years ago now, in Ecuador, Guayaquil, Ecuador. And we came across, we were in an orphanage, and at the end of the day at the orphanage, we came across a building with a big padlock on it. And I asked the woman, why is the building locked up? And she said, well, that's our library. And I said, well, what's going on? She said, look, the books take forever to get here. They come by boat. Often by the time they arrive, they're out of date, or they were somebody else's junk in the first place. Someone, landfill, basically. And so as a result, the kids have lost interest in going there. The girls, there was 100 girls in this room. And I said, well, okay, that doesn't sound good. Can we have a look inside? She looked at me and she said, you know what? I think I have lost the key to that place. And that was it. That was, for me, that was the sort of the stab through, it was the punch to the gut that made me say, this is insane. There is no reason why we should be cutting trees down. There's no reason we should be shipping things. There's no reason we should be using those same techniques, as strong as they have been for the years, to get books in the hands of kids in the developing world now when the world is going digital. So I had one of those wonderful epiphanies that one dreams about and hopes to have in a lifetime, and I was lucky enough to have. We decided to call on Amazon. We got some early donations of Kindles. We went to Ghana, where the need is so great. And we learned something staggering, not just in Ghana, but across the developing world. Across the developing world, there are over 1 billion people who are held back through lack of access to books or illiteracy or low literacy. So once we learned the facts, once we figured out the tools, we said we got to get to work. So we've been doing this for the last 6 years. We are now active in, when I first came to Rancho Santa Fe about 4 years ago, at Sue's invitation, and we had a meeting here. At the time, we had just expanded from Ghana to Kenya. Some of you will know Star Lurak. Star and Dylan were some of our early donors. Star's here. Oh, well, there we go. So Star was one of our earliest supporters to help us get into Kenya at a school called the Kibera Girls Soccer Academy. That was them. Here we are 6 years later. We are now active in 14 different countries in sub-Saharan Africa: Ghana, Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, Zambia, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Ethiopia, Nigeria, Liberia, more. We have a program in India called Read to Kids, which encourages parents to read to their children on their cell phones starting from a very young age. Very, very powerful and important notion, of course. And we have started a small project in Haiti to help the teachers in schools go digital there. In total, in the last 6 years, we have touched the lives of over 4 million people, and we are not done yet. That's WorldReader.
Wow. Thank you all for sharing that background. And I think to me what's amazing is we've got 3 men of very disparate talent and abilities and accomplishments, and yet they share one thing in common, and that is their passion for philanthropy and for doing it overseas. And it's a different scale, different touch points, different focuses, but they all have that common goal. And I'm sure many of us share that same feeling towards doing that.